Welcome everybody. Good afternoon from Mexico City. My name is Luis Antonio Márquez. I am head of the Full-Time MBA, the director of the Full-Time MBA, and of the Center for Innovation and Corporate Entrepreneurship here in Mexico City. And I'm very excited to welcome you to this webinar called Preparing Startups for the Day After. I would think that in a way, in a second, I thought I was writing a script for a sci-fi movie, right? Incredible what's going on here in our world. So today we have two great rock stars from the entrepreneurship ecosystem around the world. Dafna Kariv is with us. She has an ample experience on the startup industry and on the entrepreneurship ecosystem. I would thank you very much, Dafna, for being here, and also Rogelio de los Santos, who are our guests for this panel. So what I'm going to do is, we have several questions, but first I would like for the panelists to introduce themselves. Dafna, welcome again. Thank you very much for opening your agenda for this webinar. We are very excited to participate in this webinar. Thank you so much. And please, could you introduce yourself and tell us what do you do?
So thank you very much. I'm really excited as well and really thrilled to be with all of you here. Yeah, it's a very chaotic, very hectic time. So usually we would like to interact face to face, but this is the situation and this is how we handle it. So I would like to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity, and I would like to thank the Israeli Embassy in Mexico for this opportunity as well, and for coordination and for leading everything. So thank you very much, everybody. So I'm a professor in entrepreneurship and innovation. I'm teaching in Israel, and I'm an affiliate professor in AGC Montreal as well. I'm the former vice president for global initiatives and development, and now I'm the chair of the Department of Entrepreneurship and Innovation in a business school. 7 years ago, I've established an incubator, which turned to be very successful. Then we added an accelerator as well. And now we were in the midst of starting an open innovation platform as well. So we will see when we come back to normal, probably this will be the first mission. So
Great.
This is who I am. I'm quite engaged in research. So I wrote 5 books with Rogelio in New York, and I conducted lots of research in entrepreneurship, innovation. I'm mentoring students, I'm mentoring startups. This is my passion.
Wow, where are you right now?
So I'm here in Israel, in my daughter's room, because it's the quietest one here in the house. It's night already here. And as I said, I'm very excited to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, and it's a great honor to have you here. So let's start with questions with you. So that it's very interesting because Israel is like very known regarding entrepreneurship activity in the ecosystem, the startup nation. I think now we are post-startup nation, but regarding startups, is it too soon to tell what has been the impact for startups, or do you think we can talk about who are the winners or who are the losers? What's your take on this topic?
So yeah, it's a very good question. There is a lot of debate around it among researchers and practitioners, startups, accelerator founders, and so forth. And we do see the impact, we do see some changes, we do see the winners and the losers, at least temporarily. For example, there are some sectors that are lost their relevance overnight. So you can see some sectors like restaurants, like sports, like musical shows and so forth. So everything is closed. Right, we are locked down. We are all of us in quarantine, so we cannot use their services. So this emerged overnight. Then we have on the other side some sectors and startups I would say in the more popular sectors, but also that have emerged overnight. So they were not used to be so popular. For example, deliveries. For example, as we do now, the virtual communication, virtual education, anything that has been remoted. So I hear from many startups in our portfolio, in our incubator, complaining about not having a robust platform to hold everything, even though they are very popular now. So they started as a delivery startup, something that is really very simple, and now there are so many expectations out from them, but they cannot hold it. I also heard from one of our startups that is working on the medical sector, and they told us that they have so many expectations, including shortening the span of time for the R&D, which is really very problematic in the medical sector. So we see this as well. We also see a third sector. I mean, it's not a specific sector, but this is a dynamic that is very interesting. We see new startups, new inventions, and even a new vibe of doing something, creating something. And we figured out that we see it in several segments. For example, some of them are really targeting the first tier, as we call the tier for finding a vaccine or a medication for the virus. So this is something I would say expected, understandable. But we find many startups evolving in the next tiers, in the second and third tiers. These are tiers that provide solutions for challenges that are related to the crisis, but are not specific directed to the crisis. For example, as I said before, deliveries, education, gamification, and so forth. But the most interesting thing is the third tier. The third tier is those people, I mean, actually all of us. We are spending lots of time close to our computers and in the internet, and we became early adapters. We were not like this because we had we were busy with some other assignments and things that we were doing, but now we are more curious in what's happening in the internet, in what's happening in the digital activities. So there is another trend of startups trying to evolve in the areas of AI, of machine learning, of IoT, of robotics, of quality of the design, and of G5 and many other trends that are specifically evolving and emerging because of the crisis and because we are so, I would say, addicted now to the computers and to the internet. And then we see, unfortunately, some startups that need to cease their activities. They don't have deals anymore. They don't have, I mean, they suffer from liquidity difficulties. They can't find investing sources, and we see this as well. Again, it depends not specifically on the sector, but sometimes on the robustness of the startup, of the founders, of the team, of the ecosystem. So these are some insights that we have already about the changes and the impact of the coronavirus on the startup ecosystem.
From your experience, were you surprised with a certain industry that you did not expect that was going to arise from this pandemia? Or were you surprised of an industry that fell because of the pandemia? Or more or less you expected those startups that were in certain sectors that will thrive and others will slow down? Were you surprised or in a specific sector, or you thought you saw it coming?
Yeah, we were all surprised from some, I would say, some dynamics, and we were all expecting some other dynamics, and I will explain. Startups, they are used to be in crisis. I mean, this is the flow of startups. They are born into crisis. We usually imagine their flow as a roller coaster, we say. They have the good times, they have the bad times, So we expected those dynamics of several sectors to be more affluent now and more dynamic and energetic now, not necessarily because of the sector, but because startups are equipped with those agility and flexibility, and they could survive it. So
wow.
this is one aspect.
Wow. And how about, what do you tell your investors if you're a startup and you cannot pivot and simply this pandemic hits you very much? What do you tell your investors? What do you tell your investors? What do you tell them?
So thank you very much for the question. I think it's an amazing question for both of us because I could, hello, Rogelio, because I could maybe describe the entrepreneurial side, and maybe Rogelio could express the investor side. So in a nutshell, usually what I tell my startups to do, and we see it already from the research, we have some emerging research, budding research that is starting to develop specifically for this crisis. So what we do is we tell them, we try to list the strategies for the day after. So this is the reason that it is so important to start working on the day after now, not looking for to go back to normal and then to restart everything. In order to sustain or even create your competitive advantage, it is very important to start everything now, which means to list what you have, to list what you don't have, and you need to get some support, even not financial support. You can barter, you can have some mentors, you can merge with people, you can share platforms. You have many alternatives, not necessarily looking for an investment. You need to be a bit modest now. But if you prepare the scope of the things that you need, it will be much easier afterwards to make it happen, to implement your dreams that had to be on hold at the moment now. So Rogelio, it's very interesting to hear your view and actually to introduce yourself.
I think that obviously from the perspective of the investors, they want to see that all of the companies that a fund invests in become successful. But not all of them end up reaching the goals or the objectives that they originally wanted to achieve. And a circumstance or a black swan event like the COVID-19 really puts a lot of additional stress on not only on startups, I would say on the entire economy. And we have seen that very clearly in every country. And my recommendation is that we should basically portray the message to our investors that we are doing or we have done everything that it was in our power to help that company thrive. If for some reason the company is not capable of following or continuing because they ran out of cash, or they could not raise another round, or they could not pivot adequately, well, that is a circumstance that we have to live with. And that's why investors also invest in a portfolio of companies, no? Where they want to see that at the end they're diversifying the risk. And it's interesting, but in our portfolios, we have seen companies that are doing better than before, and we're seeing others that are very challenged because of the circumstances. And it all depends on which sector you are in and what is the business model that you were doing. But one clear thing is that right now, this COVID has acted as an acceleration of adoption of technology and digitalization. And the companies that take advantage of, the startups that take advantage of that, will become the next Googles, Apples of the future. No, we'll see them in the next 20, 30 years.
So great, Rogelio. So I have a question for you regarding the Black Swan. How do you prepare startups? How do you prepare entrepreneurs for the impact or to handle the impact of the highly improbable? What are the traits of the new entrepreneur, if there are new traits? What do you think? What are you going to tell now your investors, because you represent investors, but also you are in the middle with entrepreneur, right? And you were an entrepreneur or are an entrepreneur. From your perspective, how do you prepare students, entrepreneurs, businessmen for the highly improbable? What new traits do you think people have to have?
Well, let's be clear. This is a Schumpeterian effect. No, it's a creative destruction. This basically what COVID has done is that people, all of the cards are on the table. The cards are open, and the rules that were in place before don't apply. Now the rules have changed, and they're basically being configured as we speak. And it's very impossible to predict the future or that new reality that we're going to go into. But we have to be very diligent in observing signals or of change that start to emerge and start creating hypotheses of what is going to happen in the future. In our opinion, what we have done is put a lot of attention of the basic relationships that one has with oneself, with others, with work, with your surroundings, with institutions, with consumption, and all of that changes. But this morning I was in a conversation, very interesting conversation, where we said, well, which are the companies that will thrive, that are on the top of the list? And there has been a big change where the first objective that we had and that we were all basing our premises was that we were basically using Moore's law as the driver of evolution, no? That every 18 months, the capacity of processing power will be duplicated or doubled. Then we went into the Metcalfe law, that is the networking effect, and how that networking has created an infinite possibilities for exponential growth. And today we were discussing with a professor from MIT that today the name of the game is speed, and speed to act, speed to react, speed to move ahead. And basically the ones that create capabilities that put them in an anti-fragile circumstance or capacity are the ones that will be able to adapt and respond better to those new circumstances. So you have to move quicker, you have to move and see opportunities before everyone else. And in the end, you have to basically reinforce your core capabilities to be able to play in this new scenario, no? And companies to really prepare for the day after, they have to understand that what they have been doing might, but probably, or most potentially, might not work in the future.
Exactly.
Rewrite the rules.
What do you think, Dafna? You come from a very interesting ecosystem, right? I've been several times to Israel, and one of the things that really summarizes a little bit the entrepreneurship culture in Israel is the resilience, right? That you are always expecting, because you have several enemies around you, and that entrepreneurs are always looking to survive, to be resilient. Even this term chutzpah, right? The chutzpah energy that the Israeli entrepreneur has. Do you think it's the culture, it's the person, or it's the ecosystem that really will push, as Rogelio says, the speed, the observation skills? What do you think it is? What is your experience regarding that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. There is a balance between both of them. If I may add to the prior question, so I think that the entrepreneur of the future, of the day after, would need to be above those characteristics that I completely agree with Rogelio, would be agility, They will have to be very agile, and which has to do with the speed as well, but also with adaptability, to be more adaptive to dynamic situations. And in terms of the ecosystem or the networking would demand to create ecosystems. So there is a dependency between people. And this leads actually to the question that you have just raised. Israelis are, they are surrounded by enemies or many difficulties around, not only political, but we have many of them. But yeah, most of all, it's a country of immigration. We have many ethnic groups here, many accents, many languages. Even though Hebrew is the main language, but still you see cultural differences, many tensions inside the country and outside the country. So it's a culture that is really used to be, as I said, very agile, very flexible. Nothing is structured, nothing is formal. Israelis are even find it very difficult to keep the social distance. You know, we need a social distance now. So it's very difficult because we are people that hug each other and embrace each other and so forth. And you see the reflection of those characteristics in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and in the entrepreneurial vibe in Israel. So yes, I completely agree that the context, allocation, culture is very, very important. It shapes the entrepreneurship. For example, I'll give you a very interesting example. One of our startups started with a container that transforms humidity to water. And the idea was of this container, it's a plastic container, and the idea was to keep the hygiene of kids in India. So, and then he added a smart device that measures the dose of the soap and water, and he had a startup. Now, he decided, and you can see here the agility, the pivoting, the dynamic. He said, well, we all know that in order to prevent the infection, you need to wash your hands, right? So he took this device and he designed it differently, you know, as we say, and now he's really full of deals and businesses because he is selling it to many places, to shops, to restaurants, to public places, so everybody can wash their hands. So you see how exploiting opportunities, being a bit chutzpah, as you say, it's chutzpah. I mean, you have a container for, come on. But yes, it's a reaching out. It's something that the culture is very predominant here. But of course, you need to have this characteristic as a personality. But I completely agree that the context, the culture, and of course the governmental support as well is very important because it pushes entrepreneurs into daring. So they give money, they give support, and actually there is another thing that is very important. Israelis are not hesitant in trying, even if they fail. I mean, it might be even it could be an advantage for my resume if I'm writing that I was an entrepreneur and I failed. It could be an advantage because for others that would like to recruit me, they would say, oh, she has the characteristics, she has the experience. So it pushes Israelis to dare to do things even if they fail. So they come back and they try again. This is the reason that we see many serial entrepreneurs in Israel. And I'm sure that when we get to the day after, we will see more and more entrepreneurs that have failed now and will restart again.
Do you think, Rogelio, taking this, thank you, Dafna, taking this trait of the Israeli ecosystem and of the culture, taking it and projecting it to Mexico and Latin America, do you think that we will have to rely more on the ecosystem, or the personality of our entrepreneurs will have this push, that this daring and push that and speed, as you mentioned, and agility that right now is needed to thrive or to survive in this new day after? What do you think about that?
I think that we have great entrepreneurs in Israel, and we have great entrepreneurs in Mexico and in all of Latin America. I can bet you on that. Talent is distributed evenly around the world. What maybe gives an additional edge or advantage to a group of people in a culture is that they might have some additional training or understanding or build additional capabilities that are important for them to work on the development of a product or a solution using technology. And what I have learned from visiting Israel is that both women and men go through a very intense training program that helps them and builds them a lot of character and resilience, and that prepares them even before they go to college. So, and at the end, the responsibilities that they take through that training, they keep them through the rest of their lives. So that is commitment, and that is really a process that I wish we could replicate in other countries, including Mexico. Now, definitely the environment, as I see it, is that there's always an intangible wealth in an ecosystem. And that intangible wealth is present because of the different values and the different tools that an entrepreneur has around him that makes him more or less productive. But there is an ecosystem in Silicon Valley different from the one in Austin, different from the one in Monterrey, different from the one in Oaxaca. But there is an ecosystem, okay? Now, I think that what really builds is that, and this is something that we have always promoted in all of our initiatives, including in Monterrey or Entrepreneurship Festival, is that basically business happens at the speed of trust. And this was said by Kobe. And trust becomes basically the what permits the system to interact. And when you add on top of trust core values like abundance, of helping, instead of being individualistic, being more collective, that you want to help others, or the idea of really infusing exponential thinking and ideas of how to really increase the impact that you can create. It takes you the same amount of time to build a startup that can impact 10 people than one that can impact 1 billion people. Maybe the skills are different, no? But again, what I think it's core to this is that we need to be hopeful that the future is always going to be better because of us and our engagement with our reality. And in another way is that change, that we have to embrace change as a constant. And that to our benefit, and that's why I'm so excited about these accelerators, is that today change was maybe caused 4 or 6 months ago by COVID. Today we're seeing change in the US because of all of these manifestations. God knows what will happen next month or in 2 months from now. And we have to be attentive to it. And that is what is really allowing us to free ourselves from the hierarchical world that we have lived in into a more distributed world and more cooperative environment.
Sorry, I know you have to leave in a couple of minutes, Rogelio. Thank you for your time. Regarding, and this is a question that from the participants is coming from. Do you think, where is the money coming from now for startups? Where are they going to raise money? Is it the usual suspects, or that will change also?
I would think that the capital has been built and capital is there and has to be invested. I think that people are trying to understand what's happening and imagine that day after, or that new normal that we're all talking about. Capital will, and those commitments to funds will have to be deployed, but we have to be more intelligent about how to deploy that capital in those circumstances. Now, definitely, there has to be a learning process of the angel investor networks, the seed funds and the venture funds out there. And maybe we will end up in the future favoring companies that do not burn too much cash, like WeWork or even other ride-hailing companies, no? And we have to be profitable, and we have to really provide value, but maybe do not focus only on growth, but also on sustainable growth, that we can live with something like this that we will encounter. Believe me, we will encounter another disruption, but we have to be prepared to navigate around it.
And who should be taking the leading role? For example, in Mexico, should it be the government? Should it be the private sector? Who should be taking the lead, and in what?
My opinion has always been that it's good to have governments at the table so that they can brag about what's happening. But really, who makes this happen is the entrepreneurs and the innovators. Those are the two leading forces: entrepreneurship capacity and innovation capacity. And in that model, basically, what you need is access to capital or to other types of resources, different types of resources. And I would have and recommend that definitely this has to be market driven. The moment you start paying attention to subsidies or other mechanisms of financing, they distract you from the real opportunity and the real value out there.
Great, thank you so much. And Dafna, can you tell us a little bit more about, do you think that the work culture will change?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure about that. Actually, there is a published research, very new research. I need to make sure about its sources, but it says that many specialists and experts from the startups that have been laid off because they cost a lot of money and startups could not hold them, could not keep them. So those people are now favoring the big companies. So they go to the big companies, which means that on the day after, when the startups would like to bring back those experts, they will not be available anymore. So this is one thing that startups need to think about. I mean, when they lay off those specialists because they don't have money, so they need to understand that it's very, very risky for them. So this is one thing. Maybe they would have to outsource. Maybe they would have to keep a lean model and to stay with those experts that they're essential and they don't want to lose them for the big companies. In terms of the big companies, there is a very interesting, I would say, capturing model or recruiting model. And we see also some new startups that are making a kind of a marketplace for those temporarily encountering between the temporal unemployed people, the ones that have been laid off, for very temporal projects, and the big companies. So we see now that the big companies are trying to scout for those people, those employees that were in the SMEs, in the small and medium-sized businesses and startups, and to try to attract them. So this is the second thing that we see already, which means that the big companies would be much more experts, and the small companies, including startups, will be deprived of specialties. We also see, of course, anything that has to do with the remote work. I mean, with the flow of work, working from home. This is something that is really destructive. And it's interesting because all of us We have discussed that, and we have made so many models about that, but we were so sure that it wouldn't happen eventually. I mean, it will be very sporadically working from home 1 day per week or so forth. Now we are forced to work from home, and it disrupted everything, it innovated everything, and now we see many startups that are engaged in many services and products and information and data that is trying to give some solutions and give some insights about how do you work from home and how do you maintain an organization, a business, cohesiveness, unity, engagement. How do you do that when you are so distant from each other? The same goes with teachers. I mean, there are also employees. It's also, you know, a working method that should be, is already and should be transformed as well. So we see so in anything that you touch, you see so many effects of the crisis on the ways that people work, on the ways that people are engaged to work. There is also a fear. Many people fear from being unemployed, from losing their, I mean, the niche where they were. I see many startups in the tourism. They are desperate now. They are desperate. They don't know what to do. They're trying to pivot. They're trying to merge with some others. One of the startups that is a really smart startup of customizing excursions to several characteristics of the customers, including some AI and machine learning, something that is really smart. So they pivoted into deliveries. They make some concierge deliveries because they have the platform and there's no tourism, and we don't know when the tourism is coming back. So they had to switch. And what I heard from the founders, that they make a living now because they have another source of financing the business, but they are not happy anymore. They are not passionate anymore. They are fearing. So you need to take also into consideration the psychological effects. We say resilience, and resilience means that we will need to work with people that are now well, they fear. Yeah, they fear, even if they're not unemployed, and you need to provide them and to gain back their confidential on their specialty and implementing their vision. So yeah, we see so many aspects that we will have to take care of.
Of course, and thank you. So I was thinking, you were talking about methods, etc., and specifically then the entrepreneurial ecosystem or the entrepreneurial industry, if we should call it like that, we have always been like the underdog because we work with uncertainty, we work with unknowns, we work with a lot of risk. We have to take decisions with not a lot of information. So we're in a way accustomed to an everyday pandemic, right? Do you think in terms of, and from the academic part, do you think there's a new skill set that should be schools looking at to develop? Should be there something new in the academic curriculum that should be considered? Should be a different methodology to teach entrepreneurship, or you don't see major changes in this?
Yeah, so I think that it's a very timely question. What my last book, I published it in 2019, so last year. It is on educating entrepreneurs, and this is a book that covers many methods of how to educate entrepreneurially people that plan to be entrepreneurs or are already novice entrepreneurs and they want to gain something. So I was looking back to my book and thought to myself, what from this book could be kept? Is there anything that we need to put aside because it is no longer relevant? And do we need to emphasize or to stress something more than the pace that it is already? And I figured out that one of the things that most of the research in terms of both pedagogy and academic research, most of researchers would say that the academia is a bit, I would say, lags behind when it has to do with providing the right skills to startups and entrepreneurs. Because in the academia, we have a structured schedule, right? A structured agenda. We have our assignments, and we have the exams, and we have the courses and everything. And the real life of the entrepreneur is completely different. I mean, nothing is structured and nothing is formal, and the assignments that you planned this morning would not be relevant anymore in the afternoon. So when we try to provide our students with capabilities and skills that are more related to the entrepreneurial and innovative skill set or a mindset and so forth, we might confuse them. So now I think that all this confusion and all this uncertainty is so meaningful, is so robust, is so something so strong that we will need to make some changes. I think that, and actually I'm part of a consortium that we are working on plans and programs and assignments on what to do in order to equip our students with the right skills for an uncertain future that we don't know what it will be. And one of the things that we really stress is the acceleration and incubation programs. This should be developed. This should be aside the academia. It should, of course, get information and research and data and insights from the academia and give back their insights, but it should be something that is independent and a standalone, and that is embracing the ecosystem, attracting the ecosystem, so that the student and the founder and the entrepreneur would have more, I would say, or maybe the gap between the learning, the learnings, yes, and the reality would be reduced. So yeah, we will get, I guess, deeper into anything that has to do with practice and with being together, getting together with the ecosystem.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We think it's very interesting because we always look at Israel as an example of best practice, and now that you're teaching in Canada, etc. Do you think still there's a trait that you could share that Israeli entrepreneurs have, or you think, as Rogelio, that talent is talent nowhere, it doesn't matter where you are? Do you think, is that true, or do you agree with that? Because how come Israel has unicorns and has companies in the stock exchange, and how come in Mexico we still don't have startups that are there? What do you think we're lacking of? And Rogelio, obviously you're open to the discussion now. Dafna?
I think that, if you're an entrepreneur that is active in the Mexican environment, if you put him in Israel, or in a successful entrepreneur that is in Mexico, if you put him in the ecosystem of Israel or the ecosystem of the US, he'll be a unicorn.
He would become a super unicorn.
Become a unicorn. I mean, we live with, I received a message the other day of he was not an entrepreneur, a startup, he was a businessman of a small company, but he said, it's so hard to launch a company and operate a company in countries like us, there's a lot of friction. What we need to focus ourselves is in really understanding, building they're people very passionate with their heart and very intelligent with their minds, but we need to help them build a community that supports them and basically help them thrive in what they do, because entrepreneurs, they're experts at solving problems and getting around obstacles. You don't have to give them instructions. They will find out how to make it happen.
What do you think, Dafna? Do you agree with that, or do you think that Israel has a better structure, or what do you think?
You know, based on the book of Israel as a Startup Nation, so there are three causes or three journeys that Israeli entrepreneurs go through, or are the sources for the robustness of the Israeli entrepreneurial ecosystem. One is the military service that Rogelio has just discussed. So most of the young people go to the military, and it gives resilience, and it gives some leadership skills that are really needed in the entrepreneurial ecosystem as well, and as a business leader as well. So this is one thing. The other thing, as we said, the geopolitical influences. And then there is another thing that is very interesting. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the kibbutz. Have you heard about the kibbutz?
Yes.
The kibbutz is a community. Actually, it's a community. Everybody needs to be for the other, to contribute for the other, to be tolerant, to share. Everything is exposed. And I think that growing with this type of culture and mindset is very important for an entrepreneur, because you understand that as an entrepreneur, you cannot be a solo entrepreneur. You need to have a team, you need to have a community. And this is the reason that in Israel we have many communities, not only the kibbutz, but communities for entrepreneurs, communities for as ecosystems, including virtual ecosystems. So everybody feels very embraced and very hugged by other people. So this gives you a sense of competence. So you can do things. You will not fail. There is someone close to you that will help you. I completely agree, as I said with Rogelio, that there are people that are born to be very successful in entrepreneurship. Well, there are people that are born to be very successful in sports or in music or whatever. Yes, there are those talents, but I think that the ecosystem and the environment and the push and pull factors are very, very important to maybe to tailor it a bit different, to adjust it, to enable this person that has spoken to you this morning, Rogelio, that says that everything is very difficult in Mexico. Maybe in a different environment, this specific person would be very successful. So I think it's a interaction between, it's a balance between the talent, the passion, the resilience, the team, the idea, of course, and the environment.
I agree. So it's 1:51 here. We're almost done. I have a personal question for you both. First, Rogelio, if you can answer this, and then obviously we will close with Dafna, and obviously if you have something more to say. You are a person that has completed the cycle, and what I mean when you completed the cycle is you have been an entrepreneur, you sold your company, then you have become an investor, you have invested. You are now participating in public policy. You are a promoter of entrepreneur. You have done almost everything. What doesn't let you sleep at night today?
Well, first of all, I haven't done everything, and I just keep putting myself in front of opportunities where I can contribute. what keeps me up at night? I sleep very well. and I do a lot of exercise, so I sleep like a baby. And I'm an early bird. I wake up very early in the mornings. But if I would say what is really important is that I think that we need to have a clear sight in mind that everything that we do at the end has to help people become free in many aspects of his of the person. No, people, if people have freedom of thinking, freedom of religion, freedom of profession, freedom of economic freedom, that's also important. I think that people in those conditions thrive, and I like to say, and I'll say it in Spanish, is that cuando la gente brilla más, is when people really, you see the light in their eyes. And today there is a lot of division, suffering, manipulation, contention, and really, instead of really serving a higher purpose, so that in a way individuals, women and men with equal rights can live in an environment that we respect and that we take care of each other. And at the end, we learn to coexist, but at the same time, and I'm thinking about the right word, but it's a sense of realization that when people get to that state, people are happy. And happy with what they are, with what they have, with what they do, with how they relate to others. And I think that should be the state of the world. And as entrepreneurs, because even though I manage and invest in companies through our funds at Dalus Capital, I think that at the end, what we want is to really help contribute a little bit more in aligning our world and solving problems that are out there. And it's good that we can solve mobility problems or identity problems or I don't know, many other situations. But I think that at the end, what we have, and this pandemic has shown us, is that we're very fragile. We're humans and we're imperfect. And that in this fragility, not only as individuals, but also as organizations in our companies or in our institutions in our states, this simple, very small microorganism has shown us that nature wins and nature states the rules of the game. So let's focus more on unless we want to get on a Falcon X and leave to Mars. Let's focus on solving and creating that better behavior, better environment for and behaviors of all people, so that we can live happily.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your insight. So, Dafna, please close with your remarks. What's on top of your mind? Do you sleep also well at night?
I sleep well at night. I also do exercise and jogging every day, 10 kilometers I have around the house now. So yeah, I sleep well at night, but I'm also very concerned with challenges like the one that has been raised by Rogelio. And specifically, I'm an advocate of attracting female to the entrepreneurial business, to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We don't have much here in Israel, and actually it's a worldwide, I would say, situation. condition where you don't see many female entrepreneurs, and the ones that are coming to this I would say sector of entrepreneurship. So most of them would be female-oriented entrepreneurs, which means that they will embrace more the feminine products and businesses and so forth, which are usually less beneficial and profitable. So one of the things that I'm really actively, I would say proactively, striving to do here in Israel is to attract more students from my classes, female students, to our incubator and to our accelerator. We see lots of dropouts of those female entrepreneurs from our incubator accelerator comparatively to men. And we are trying to, and I actually developed a program to sustain them, to enable them to sustain, to keep them with us. And this is something, and anything that has to do with diversity is really very, this is something that is really very meaningful for me. Combining, I mean, just generating a team that is diverse, that has lots of insights and dreams and visions. And as I said before, many languages and many cultures and many accents. Israelis and Jewish and Arabs and older people and younger people and female and men. This would be something that is coherent. This would be something that I'm dreaming of, and I'm striving. I'm doing it. I'm trying to put all my energies in order to make it happen.
Thank you so much. I agree with you. It's a very interesting topic. So it's 2 o'clock. I just want to really thank you very much, especially you, Dafna, that you're in a different continent, and for sharing your time, sharing your insights. I really thank you, Rogelio, for letting us pick your brains and sharing your experience as a Tecno Monterrey icon and leader. Thank you, Dafna. Thank you, Rogelio. I'm just closing a little bit with an advertising just to close. Thank you so much. If you want to write something in the satisfaction survey, we would appreciate that. And also to remind you, there's another webinar coming next and on June the 12th. Please assist. And for all of you, thank you so much. I know there were a lot of questions, but it's difficult to have 1 hour with 2 great representatives of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you again. My name is Luis Márquez, and I hope you continue your startups and working hard. Thank you again, both of you. Take care.
Thank you. Well, welcome.